Welcome to week 9, everyone. I know some of you are going to be on spring break, and as I have said in the past, I want you to enjoy your spring break. So if you're on break this week, then you have 2 weeks to complete the work. Just try not to fall behind. Some of you might be like, oh, well, I'll take this week off and next week off. It doesn't really work like that because then it's just going to pile up. And we do have our next big paper that I'm going to discuss in just a little bit. But I just wanted to remind you that there are 3 things due this week. You have your 2 asynchronous assignments, and then it's just that quick movie analysis that I talked about in week 8's announcement. So make sure if you haven't seen that announcement, go back and take a look at it. And it's just a 1 page, guys. I'm not asking for a peer review for this one. I'm just looking to kind of see how you are doing as far as being able to analyze something. I just remember, I don't want a plot summary. What I am looking for is, can you take some different criteria, and in the prompt I gave you 3 or 4, actually more than that, options. You have to pick 3 or 4 things to analyze. You can do acting, you can do directing, cinematography, music, whatever you'd like to do, and just say, hey, is this a good movie in my opinion based off of these criteria? So just 1 page, double space, not even looking for formatting here, because I'm just trying to get you in the mindset of switching to an analysis type paper, because our next big project is a genre analysis, which I know sounds really scary, but it is not, I promise. So what you're going to do is think about something that you're passionate about. So it can be a political issue. I mean, we're going into an election year this year, and some of you may or may not be able to vote in it. So what are you passionate about politically? Is it a school issue? Like the school where I do the majority of my dual enrollment classes, they're switching their schedule next year, and there's a lot of chatter about it, and people aren't very sure about it. Could it be a social issue? I mean, just anything that you are kind of passionate about or have a really, really big opinion about. So, like right now, something I have a huge opinion and I'm passionate about is I live in a dead end street near a school, and people keep parking in front of my driveway to pick up their kids after school. And I've gotten really passionate about, please don't park in front of my driveway and blocking it when I'm trying to get home. So, I looked up some traffic laws, and I've had to knock on people's car windows and remind them, hey, well, one, I need to pull in my driveway. And two, technically, you could get a parking ticket if you're blocking my driveway, so that could be an issue. It doesn't have to be anything overly serious. So what you're going to do is you're going to find a genre. Now remember, a genre is just a type of something. Like we usually associate genres with excuse me, movies. Like, are they dramas? Are they comedies? Are they, coming of age, whatever they are? Or music? Is it country? Is it rap? Is it R&B? A genre is just a type. So for this, it can be a political speech. You can think about the State of the Union address that President Biden posted last week. It could be a social media post, a billboard, a commercial, a news article, whatever you want to respond to. Excuse me. So in part 1, you will identify and analyze this genre rhetorically. So, who is the audience? Like, it can just be a general audience, or maybe it's to a specific audience. If it's like, if you're passionate about raising money for children's hospitals, then your specific audience will be people who want to donate money to these particular causes. If it's a school issue, like a schedule change, your audience might be parents, administrators, and students. It might have a very specific audience, but it's also okay if it's a very general audience. What is their motivation for creating this genre? Like if it's a billboard advertising a political candidate, do they want you to vote for them? Is it an organization looking for money? Are they wanting you to buy their product? So what is that exigence? What constraints might it have? Like a commercial has constraints for time, because usually commercials are only 15 to 30 seconds normally for a television commercial, because the longer they are, the more money that they cost, honestly. If it's a billboard, you can't put a whole lot of words on that billboard, or else people aren't going to be able to really absorb it when they're driving down the road. If it's got all these, if it's like a paragraph of words, it's like, I can't read that while I'm driving. It has to be short, sweet, to the point. If it's an infographic posted in the school, they wouldn't be able to use foul language because it's in a school setting, that type of thing. Those are constraints that we'll be looking for. Is it credible? Like, why should I trust this? Who created this? Is there, now if it's like a political speech, the candidate is speaking, so that kind of automatically gives it ethos. But if it's a commercial, like, why should I trust it? So be thinking about things like that. Is it logically organized? And that's the logos. Is it easy to follow, or is it just kind of all over the place and scattered and I don't really know what's going on? Did it elicit an emotional response, pathos? And so that's going to be your part one. So you're going to introduce your genre, tell me what it is, maybe give me some background of it. That could be your first paragraph. And in your second paragraph, you could talk about it rhetorically. And you can have a part two, which could be your very next paragraph. Do you agree with that particular genre? Why or why not? And then part three, what would be the best way for you to respond? So let's say I have an example, a condensed example here. So I've had a lot of papers on autism in the past, so I just decided to roll with it in this particular example. So having a brother that should be who is, sorry, is on the autism spectrum. I am very passionate about making sure that people have correct information about this disorder. Recently, I came across this tweet on Twitter, now known as X. So here we have the genre. So what I would want you to do in this particular paper is I would want you to actually post a link to whatever the genre is. If it's a commercial, if you found it online, if it's a billboard or a tweet or a social media post, you can do a screenshot of it and pop it right in there, kind of like the student did. And so that way we can take a look at it. So here is the genre that they found, which is a tweet. It says, many serious academic journal articles support the claim that there is a link between autism and vaccines. And this got his hashtags, which they always do. So I'm going to analyze this. So I gave some background, like kind of what or the students' motivation was, rather, and the genre that they found. And then they kind of go into that rhetorical analysis. So it's written for a general audience, but specifically geared towards people who probably believe that vaccines cause autism. The creator, Vaccine Truth, obviously wants to convince as many people as possible that vaccines do cause children to develop autism and they should be avoided at all costs. They are constrained by the character limitations of a tweet as well as community guidelines. Because, Twitter will shut you down, or X, whatever it is now. Because, if they feel like it is dangerous, then they can actually remove the tweet, especially if it has, do they still call it tweets? I'm not even sure. I don't use Twitter, or X, or whatever it is right now. So I'm not 100% sure. But so anyway, so they decided to divide up the rhetorical analysis into two paragraphs, which is perfectly fine. The creator is not very credible. I could not find any information about who the person behind it is, so it's doubtful that it is a doctor or an expert in the field. It is easy to read, but it provides no links to help prove what they are saying is true. In fact, it's quite easy to go into any academic database and disprove what they tweeted about. Also, the word serious really isn't the correct word to use to help present a logical argument. It would have been better if they said prestigious, vetted, or peer-reviewed, but they purposely did not use that type of language, which indicates it might not be true. Vaccines are a hot topic, so just mentioning them would make their audience have an emotional response. All in all, it isn't a very effective tweet. It doesn't prove anything. So, that's just kind of their analysis, their own opinion of the tweet. And it's okay to kind of give your own opinion in this kind of paper, because you're just kind of taking what you know and applying it to that particular type of genre. Now, if I was going to tell them to revise it in any way, form, or possible, I would probably include a sentence or two saying where they tried to figure out who exactly Vaccine Truth is. So, there's obviously a content creator here. So if I were them and I was analyzing something and I was wanting to know if it was true or not, I'd probably look up the person and maybe mention something that you couldn't really find anything about who Vaccine Truth is, or if it's an organization. I don't know. They didn't say. And so the audience is left thinking, well, that could be a credible organization, but you didn't check. So that's something to consider when you are writing a paper like this. So this is the opinion part of it. I do not agree with the content of this message. As mentioned before, it's all too easy to disprove with a search on any academic database of the National Institutes of Health's webpage. Upon doing some research, so the student did do some research to kind of prove their own point. I discovered that there was a doctor named Andrew Wakefield who published a study that was later proven to be highly flawed, claiming that vaccines cause autism. In fact, there are hundreds of published works that prove that there is no connection between vaccines and autism, such as a study that was published on the National Library of Medicine's website titled Vaccines Are Not Associated with Autism, an evidence-based meta-analysis of case-controlled and cohort studies. It can be found here. The consensus is generally supported by most in the medical community. So they gave their opinion, but notice that they backed it up with some facts to give themselves ethos to prove, hey, I don't agree with what they're saying here. Now, if they did agree with what they were saying here, I'm pretty sure they could find some information here. But the point is that whenever you write an analysis, you want to kind of either prove or disprove what you're analyzing. So, over the years, I have found replying directly to the person making a post like this is not very effective. My purpose would be to try to convince them that my opinion is correct, but there are certain groups of people that cannot be reasoned with, and any response would probably just result in a tweet war. The best response I can make would be to create my own tweet posted to my personal page that has a link to the peer-reviewed research articles that shows that vaccines do not cause autism. It could look something like this, and that's what they created. So, sometimes the appropriate response is no response, because if you just know they're not going to listen, and that's kind of the thing that happens online, is that people get into these little petty fights and there's no resolution to them. Very rarely have I ever heard of anyone's opinion being changed by something that they've seen on Twitter or Instagram or Snapchat or wherever it is. So you have to think, how would be the best way I could respond to this? And as I said, it could be nothing. It could be your own personal post without even, getting into vaccine truth, like tagging them or whatever. So you have to think about that. What is going to be the best way to respond? My hope is having a logical source that has credibility due to it being peer-reviewed and trying to stay neutral and not provoke the people who think differently, and that those with open minds might be willing to entertain the idea that I could be right. So short, sweet, to the point. I'm not asking for a huge, long thing on this. Just as long as you kind of hit those criteria, you're going to be fine. I'm going to have a link of this in the news feed that just kind of has the rubric for it. If you can just take a quick look over that. This is not going to be due for a couple of weeks, and right now I just want you to be formulating questions, like what might you want to be looking for, like respond to. What's something you have a strong opinion about? And just kind of be researching that, and that's actually going to tie into your asynchronous assignments for this week. So as always, if you have any questions or concerns, please just let me know.